The intersection of this incredible food crisis and the awakening of a conscious mainstream consumer that wants to vote with their dollars has created this huge movement now that is starting to work to address those needs.
That's Gunnar Lovelace, and this is the Rich Roll Podcast. The Rich Roll Podcast. What's happening, wellness warriors, fitness freaks, self-improvement enthusiasts, mindfulness devotees, nutrition junkies, positivity fanatics? Welcome one, welcome all. My name is Rich Roll. I'm an ultra-endurance athlete, best-selling author. I'm a husband. I'm a father of 4 kids and 2 dogs. And this is the podcast where I deep dive with the paradigm-shifting outliers, the big forward thinkers across all categories of positive seismic culture change. The goal? To help all of us unlock and unleash our best, most authentic selves. So today on the show is a really great conversation with my very good friend, Gunnar Lovelace. We've known each other about 15 years. Gunnar is a lifelong wellness advocate and incredibly socially conscious serial entrepreneur. And more recently now, he is the founder and CEO of a company called Thrive Market. What is Thrive Market? Who is Gunnar Lovelace? Is that even his real name? Well, more on all that in a second. But first, today's episode is sponsored by ScottyVest, the clothing company known for innovative designs that keep your belongings organized and secure, so you can focus on the important things in life. Specialists in functional fashion for over 15 years, ScottyVest designs multi-pocket clothing that gives you easy access to all your essentials. With up to 42 pockets in a single item, 42, how do you even do that? 42 pockets on a single item? You'll have space for your smartphone, music player, water bottle, healthy snacks, sunglasses, sunscreen, wallet, keys, and more. ScottyVest believes that you have more important things to do than worry about what to wear. Their customers are so spoiled by ScottyVest's clever designs, one even described wearing the clothing as a vacation for your brain. Go to scottywest.com/richroll and get 20% off with the coupon code RICHROLL. Their clothing is cleverly engineered to balance the load and keep you comfortable while giving you easy access to everything you need. You'll enjoy useful features. You can clean your sunglasses. It's got a water bottle holder. They even designed pockets to prevent things from falling out in case you forget to close them. Check out their full line of clothing for men and women at scottywest.com/richroll and get 20% off with the coupon code RICHROLL. Today's episode is also brought to you by Bombas. Get rid of your old, dingy, worn-out socks, people. Bombas are athletic leisure socks re-engineered to look better, feel better, and perform better. And I can personally attest to this. They sent me a box of them, and I love them. They come in all kinds of shapes. They have the ankle ones for running. I wear them running all the time. They've got the knee sock varieties, and they come in all kinds of awesome, crazy colors, which I really like. And seriously, they are the most comfortable socks you will ever wear. Made with long staple Pima cotton, which is super soft premium cotton with natural moisture wicking properties. They're also really durable. Sound good? Then just go straight to bombas.com/roll and enter code ROLLGET25, ROLLGET 25, for 25% off 4 or more pairs for first-time customers. And there's a 100% happiness guarantee. If you don't think they are the most comfortable socks you have ever worn, they will refund your entire purchase. Really. How do they keep you happy? Well, for one, they have seamless toes. They got rid of those annoying bumpy seams that are on the toes of most socks that are so irritating. Their ankle sock also features a blister tab to protect your heels and keep your socks in place for ultimate comfort. And these socks are not only great to walk in, but they're also great for running, like I do, for golf, which I do all the time, right? Not really. Speed walking, whatever activity strikes your fancy. Now you can get them in solids too, black, navy, gray, and white. Now you can wear your favorite socks for any occasion. So go to bombas.com/roll and enter code ROLLGET25 to get yourself 4 or more pairs for 25% off. Again, that's bombas.com/roll and enter coupon code ROLLGET25. All right, today's show, Gunnar Lovelace. By the way, yes, that is his real name. Again, Gunnar is a successful and very socially conscious serial entrepreneur, a guy who has had ongoing interests in everything from nonprofits to technology, fashion, and real estate over the years. And most recently, he is onto something big. really big, I think, as the founder and co-CEO of a new business called Thrive Market. Let's take a step back. When it comes to healthy eating, plant-based or otherwise, the common refrain is that it's too expensive, it's too inconvenient, healthy foods are unavailable where I live. And although I often counsel on the many myths that surround these arguments, it's undeniable that there is much truth in these assertions. I mean, look, Whole Foods is called Whole Paycheck for a reason, right? And we do very much need to find better ways to provide healthy food in a convenient and affordable way for everybody. And that's where Thrive comes in. Thrive is basically like this crazy digital love child of Costco and Whole Foods. It's a direct-to-consumer online shopping club platform that offers all the 4,000 best, healthiest, most popular natural and organic food brands in the world. The kind of stuff typical of a high-end natural foods grocer, including tons of plant-based and vegan foods, of course, but at 25 to 50% off retail prices, shipped anywhere in the U.S. for free, which is really amazing. Plus, for every paid member on the site, the company also sponsors a free membership for a low-income family, and I really like that. These guys are growing incredibly fast. Beyond some pretty amazing original investors, guys like Tony Robbins and Deepak Chopra, this past summer they closed a $30 million Series A round of VC funding led by Greycroft, with participants like John Legend, Toby Maguire, and Demi Moore. And this funding is going to go a long way towards fulfilling their mission, which is to make healthy living easy and affordable for every American family, which is enormous, right? So I met Gunnar about 15 years ago when I was a lawyer. I was his lawyer, in fact. I represented an early internet venture he founded called Good Life, and we talk a little bit about that in the podcast. And Gunnar and I have been good friends ever since. And I will say this, Gunnar is not your typical startup founder. He's more like a yoga teacher, a yogi. I mean, the guy grew up on a commune, who happens to also have an incredibly keen business acumen. He has quite the expanded consciousness. Gunnar has an enormous heart, and I'm so proud of what he's building. Not just excited to see him doing so well, because he truly is one of the good guys, but for what I think Thrive can do to truly change the socioeconomics of healthy eating for all of us. Really quickly, what this is not. This is not a paid advertisement for Thrive. I just really like and appreciate what Gunnar and his team are trying to do. And like I said, Gunnar and I go way back, and I've been wanting to get him on the show for some time. What this is a great conversation about entrepreneurship, productivity, daily routines, social responsibility, conscious capitalism, the current state of health in America, and how we can collectively and together solve this problem of providing easy and affordable access to healthy food for everyone. I really love this guy. I think you will too. So without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, Gunnar Lovelace. So good to see you, man.
You too.
There are so many miles on the road in our relationship. You know what I mean? As I was like driving down here, I was reflecting back on like the first time that we met and how our lives have diverged, and yet like a DNA strand keep wrapping upon each other. You know what I mean?
You're a high-flying lawyer, entertainment lawyer, and I was launching another startup that belly flopped.
I know. Well, it's actually a really funny story. So I was practicing law. I had that little law firm with a couple other guys, and I think the introduction was originally through Colin Houdon.
Absolutely.
Who has stayed in our lives, and I'll get into that more in a second as well. But you, Colin, and Jared Krause, and Compton Rambada, who's also been huge in my life, we're starting this little internet company called Good Life.
That's right.
Right? And it was a little bit ahead of its time, I think. But what was the concept?
Well, I mean, it was basically a socially conscious Yelp. So there just weren't enough of those businesses and enough of those people out there. But it was working to create a directory of the most conscious, eco-friendly businesses and services out there.
Right. And so I kind of came on board as corporate legal counsel, and we had lots of meetings. I remember with everyone together.
In your beautiful house.
Yeah, you guys came up to the house, and there was a lot of big aspirations for this company that it didn't quite make it.
Yeah.
But the interesting thing is that you guys all remained in my life, and I've had like hundreds and hundreds of clients, most of which come and go. I don't stay in touch with them, but for some reason, like, you guys have always been around. Like Compton goes on to be like really instrumental in my life and like my earliest nutrition mentor, who like really taught me so much about how food works. And I mean, he was teaching me about the microbiome years, now it's like zeitgeisty and everyone's talking about it. But like in 2006 or whatever, when I first met him, he was all about it. And so he really helped change my life. And I remember that you would come to these Good Life meetings with a mason jar with like some kind of green drink in it.
Green sludge.
Yeah, green sludge. And we would all make fun of you. And like now everyone does that. But like, that was still, I mean, it wasn't that long ago, but yet that was still kind of like a radical thing. So you were
8 years ago.
I know you were on the tip, like you were way ahead of the curve on that kind of thing.
I was straight,
in the same way that Good Life was, I suppose.
Straight off the hippie commune.
I know, right? So, and we're going to get into that too. And then Colin becomes this sort of tea master, tea entrepreneur, opens up this tea shop. He's the one who introduces us to Wuda, who's been on the podcast twice. And now he's a Chinese medicine doctor and he's our acupuncturist. So he's very much in our life and is very close
Beautiful.
with Julie
Yes.
and the boys too. Tyler goes and sees him all the time.
It's beautiful.
I haven't seen Jared so much lately, but he started, what was that?
It's a
Tradia.
A barter platform.
Right, Tradia, which is it doing well? I know it was doing really well a little while ago. I haven't checked on it.
I think it's
recently.
been up and down.
Has it?
Yeah.
So whoops, the levels are a little bit weird here. I just want to balance that out. But it is amazing that everybody's been around. And you are.
I reflect back on Good Life, and if I had that business now, because we were actually booking $100,000 in sales pre-launch. I could have easily raised 10 or 20 million in this market with that business. But 2008 just wiped us out. That the recession just totally took us out. So, but it's all good. It's all compost and learning experiences. So.
Of course, man. I mean, I would imagine you must look back on it with gratitude because
totally.
it's an experience that just informs what you're doing now, which is extraordinary, right?
That's right.
But let's bridge the gap between then and now. I mean, we're going to get into Good Life. I'm going to get into your hippie compound Ojai life as well. But as a serial entrepreneur, like after Good Life, like what did you then, there's these years where I'm not quite, I would run into you occasionally. I saw you at Saul's wedding, and stuff like that, but I wasn't really totally clued in as to what you've been up to.
Well, I basically retrenched after 2008 and just focused on my jewelry business, Love Heals, which has been great. It's been, we have 200 employees in Bali. It's a fair trade social enterprise business. We've planted over 2 million trees through the business, but it was just a retrenching, studying what happened, waiting for the market, thinking about what's next, and just generally passionate about health and wellness. So, trying to figure out how to enter back into the market and what was the real problem that I could address and solve.
Mm-hmm. And so were there a couple like fits and starts with other companies in the interim along the way or before Thrive or? No,
I basically just retrenched with the jewelry business, grew it to 1,000 stores. It's
that's a business that you run with your mom, right?
Yeah. So my mom and I run it. She's bohemian hippie artist that was making jewelry all over the world.
Your mom wasn't like a Wall Street executive.
Yeah, exactly. So it's still running. It's a beautiful little business, and just been really. In general, like all of us, we want to apply our lives to something that has personal meaning and high impact. And, your journey from a entertainment lawyer to where you are today as a thought leader is very much, the hero's journey, right? And so we all go through that in our own way. And that has a retrenching process. It has its dangers. It has its challenges.
Well, the critical aspect of that whole hero's journey is having the dark night of the soul. That's right. Though. So did you have a dark night of the soul? What was your moment?
2009 January when the economic crisis was in full force. I remember doing a trade show in New York, and normally that I would book a couple $100,000 in 3 days in sales for my jewelry business, and it was like $3,000 in sales. And the airport normally would be full of people, and there were 95% less people, and the people that were on the airplane were like wearing masks. It was very apocalyptic. The whole circumstance.
Do you foresee a bubble happening right now as an internet entrepreneur? It's pretty interesting. There's a pretty compelling article in the latest issue of Vanity Fair on the subject of whether we're on a bubble or not.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's
by Nick Bilton, who writes for the New York Times.
There's definitely bubbles, and there's businesses that are being capitalized at super high valuations that shouldn't be rationalized. I mean, the beauty of our business is that we have real sales, real revenue, real assets. It's a real business. I mean, we're in our 11th month in business on an 80 million revenue run rate. So it's
crazy. Yeah, I mean, it's the previous sort of catchphrase for it would have been that it really is a bricks and mortar business, but it's kind of more than that. It falls into, in my mind, that category of business that's super successful online right now, which is really about, as much as anything else, it's about effective distribution, right? Whether it's Uber, like getting cars to go where they need to go, yours is about getting healthy foods, where they need to go at a price point that makes sense for people.
It's a disintermediation, right? I mean, I think there's this incredible moment in the 21st century where we can use the internet to go direct to our audience, just the way that you are with your audience. That's such an exciting opportunity where we're no longer at the service, we're subservient to intermediaries, and we can use the internet and all of the technologies that have emerged and new media to really have a direct conversation with the world at scale. And whatever the thing that is that we're passionate about, if it's solving a real problem or it's addressing a real issue that people have a resonance around, it's going to scale very quickly.
Yeah. I mean, some of my favorite companies that have come on board to be podcast sponsors are those disintermediary kind of disruptive businesses like Warby Parker or Casper or Harry's, where they're just cutting out the middleman and they're able to provide like the high quality product at a fraction of the price that you would find in the store, because you're not dealing with all the nonsense.
That's right. Yeah, and that's exactly what we're doing with health food. So it's cutting out all the middlemen and eliminating the retail markup, and then passing that along to our members. And that's, for us, I mean, the thing is, it's such a direct extension of my personal experience growing up on a hippie commune where we ran a food co-op for the last 30 years.
Let's park it there though, and let's go back to life as young Gunnar in Ohio running free on a farm. I mean, what does that look like?
I mean, it sounds like...
you really did. I mean, people talk about like, oh, I had a hippie growing up experience, but like you really did, right?
Yeah, definitely.
I mean, were you homeschooled or like...
Yeah, we ran a school off the property, but I mean, even prior to that, I was, born of two hippie parents that were, unmarried, had a love affair in Ibiza, Spain, then immigrated here to the U.S. That relationship didn't last, and so then I ended up living here with my mom as a single mother for a number of years, and just the impression that left upon me, seeing her. There were months at a time where we would just like live off of rice. I mean, it was like, really humble times. So it sounds.
Were there a bunch of people living on this? Is it the same property?
This is even prior to us moving to, when I was like 7 years old, my mom met my stepfather. And so he was the one running this organic farm and this food co-op. And so they fell in love, and we moved to this hippie commune, which was, really a very, very humble circumstance, 5 acres, a stream. And we've, over the last 30 years, we've, planted 500 fruit trees and built the house and a main kitchen where everybody eats, and lots of cabins, and just kind of, I've been through the whole gamut of that experience. But, it sounds very idyllic. At some level, on other levels, I was a pretty traumatized little boy.
There's a lot of emotional toil. Well, there's that like romantic idea of, the unicorns and rainbow idea of like growing up hippie with all these people around to sort of, sub-parent you. And then the reality of like, I just want to like take a shower and go to the bathroom and like eat like a decent meal.
Totally.
Or, you know what I mean?
Totally, yeah.
Right.
And it got more idyllic later on. Probably that was mostly
after the trauma was fully lodged in your consciousness.
Exactly. But I mean, it was a real eye opener just seeing the benefit of, like I have, 50 aunts and uncles. One taught me computer programming, one taught me bike riding, another taught me nonviolent communication. So there was definitely a lot of really interesting educational exposure that emerged out of that type of.
And you never went to like normal high school? Or
No, I did.
Oh,
I did. So we ran a school out of the property up until junior high, and so then after that, I went to the public school, which was actually the most challenging year of my life, going from a school of like 15 really sweet, like sensitive people to 1,000 people, and last name Lovelace, in a 1,000-person school that I was fat, overweight kid with a last name Lovelace from the hippie commune, so it was like Lord of the Flies. That was
not good.
Not a good. But it gave me a lot of compassion for people that don't fit in. So I work with that sense of compassion and empathy every day.
Mm-hmm. And so from there, did you go to college after that, or what was the next thing?
So I actually ended up going to UC Santa Cruz. Had a great adventure there.
Of course, there's no other college for you, right?
That's right.
Where else are you going to go?
That's right. And 3 of the 4 years that I was there, I was living in the woods in a treehouse on behind campus. So I had a really
as much as you're trying to escape the commune, you're finding yourself creating your own.
I wasn't actually trying to escape. Those are your words.
All right. Yeah, you're right. You're right. I don't mean to project that on you.
That's fine. I did end up reacting to it later on. So I dropped out of school and out of college and started my first software company and was really successful with that. Quickly sold that business in a year, and then I ended up finding myself in a pretty dark circumstance in LA where like I was working for and serving people that really didn't have high values, and that was a really amazing experience that was very informative. And I remember waking up one morning, 25 years old. I was cheating on my girlfriend at the time. I was like in a very like terrible place in my life, and I just like this instant like recognition that I couldn't proceed with that life hit me with like this like total visceral force. And spontaneously after that, this unconditional love for George Bush and Dick Cheney like emerged. And I was like, whoa, because these guys have been like the epitome of evil for me up until this point in my life. And I realized that, it's no wonder men do what they do growing up in houses of fear, the way that power is trained and passed along from father to son, and the way that power and wealth concentrates at this point in the evolution of our species. And we're modeling behavior that is given to us, and so in a culture that rewards profit and greed above all else, it's no wonder that we end up doing what we do.
Well, that's a pretty profound epiphany as a young man, and of course there's no reaction without the action that incites it, right? Everything is rooted in a reason that precedes it, and in the Buddhist idea of there's no part without the whole and no whole without the part.
That's
but
right.
To be able to kind of have that realization, that's a powerful thing, man.
Yeah, it was.
So did that empower you to immediately kind of change your circumstance?
I immediately shut that company that I had running and actually started my jewelry business with my mom. That was really the beginning of that.
Love Heals. Is that the genesis of the name Love Heals?
I mean, it's partly. It was definitely an interest in creating a brand and a business that was more than just an individual, but stood for an idea of a more holistic way of being in the world.
Right. The sun does not discriminate in where it shines.
That's right. That's right.
So, all right. Well, let's fast. We already went through kind of good life and all of that. So, where does the kind of kernel of the idea for Thrive start to crop up? I mean, was this your idea, or how did this whole thing come together?
Yes. I mean, as much as anything is our ideas, right? We're all cumulative summation of everything that has come before us.
I just made that point, right? So
we take possession of them as our personal identity, but
well, in an epigenetic sense, it goes back generations, right?
That's right.
So we can't take credit for anything.
But so I think actually what actually ended up happening is I was organizing a group of people going to Burning Man, and we set up a bunch of wholesale accounts with the brands that I really love. And then when we went through that exercise and started to understand the benefits of having wholesale access, and then coming back from that experience, I started running some shopping events with friends. I was like, hey, who wants to buy Health Force this week, or whatever the brand was? And those shopping events were so oversubscribed, and there was so much demand for it. And I'd always known that people were interested in being able to access healthy products for less, but the intensity of the demand was so extreme that it led me to try to think about how we could create a platform that harnessed that energy, facilitated that in a way that was really scalable. And that really was the genesis. And at that point, I started to apply myself with singular focus on Thrive Market, creating a scalable platform that really leveraged the best of a co-op model in a 21st century context that stripped out the hippiness, kept the heart and soul, but made healthy food available to everyone at lower prices.
Right. I sort of conceptualize it as, and tell me if this is fair or unfair, it's sort of Costco meets Whole Foods in a direct-to-consumer internet model, right?
That's right on the commerce side, but we're investing heavily in media and content. So so that's exactly the analog in terms of the online commerce component. But then the general thesis is that health and wellness is now a lifestyle trend, and it's like fashion. And health and wellness is a fundamentally very scalable organizing principle that transcends ideology. Whether you're liberal or conservative, everybody wants to feel healthy. Everybody wants the same thing for their children. Right. And there's a lot of education and information and questions around how to do it. There's no one way of how to do it, but everybody wants to digest media and content like your podcast and have a connection and understand and be guided through the process. And so we're simultaneously with the commerce, we're investing heavily into content and media. Yeah,
that's cool. I like that idea very much. It is, what do you attribute to the sort of explosion of this interest and this trend of, intrigue around all things wellness? I mean, it's not the purview of the hippie commune in Ojai anymore. This is a mainstream concept. It is very modern. It's confusing. There's all kinds of craziness on the internet, and it's easy to kind of go down some, black hole of nonsense. But I think that the level of, average modern family consumer interest in living healthier and getting good foods and all of that is unprecedented.
That's right. Yeah. I think it's so exciting to me at that level. I've been looking for an organizing principle that could bring people together in a really powerful way that transcends the normal divisions. And so I feel like I get to be part of a conversation that is so powerful and so universal. I mean, we're with one of our investors, Dr. Mark Hyman, who, self-identified pagan.
The pagan,
we're at Saddleback Church, which is the largest mega church in the country. Pastor Rick Warren. He's designed a meal plan and a health plan with Dr. Mark Hyman and Dr. Daniel Amen, with Pastor Rick Warren. And I'm in the congregation. It's being syndicated to hundreds of churches, thousands of people in the congregation live, and they're talking about the health plan, and it's avocado cacao pudding and quinoa and coconut oil is the center point of their dietary recommendations as healthy fats. I almost fall out of the chair as I'm this is the conversation that we'd have in the hippie commune 10 years ago.
Right.
And
this is what's in your green sludge that you're bringing to the meeting back in the day.
This is mainstream, Christian conservative America having a conversation around avocado cacao pudding and quinoa and coconut oil. And to your point, this is now a mainstream movement.
But why now? Like, what do you think? Like, in kind of a meta, perspective of culture.
It's
like,
a food crisis, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just generally. I mean, I think we're now faced with $100 billion a year spent on diabetes and obesity-related illnesses. There's a real awakening among consumers of all types where they want to vote with their dollars. And, of course, they want value for themselves and they're motivated by self-interest. But at the end of the day, all things being equal, they want to put their dollars towards something that actually speaks to their values in a really direct way. So the intersection of this incredible food crisis and the awakening of a conscious mainstream consumer that wants to vote with their dollars has created this huge movement now that is starting to work to address those needs.
Right. It's such an interesting time because there really are two Americas. Like you have, Rick Warren's, massive church and people talking about healthy foods. You have people like you and I. You have this LOHAS movement, this massive, interest in wellness. And yet at the same time, there's another America where 1 out of every 3 people dies of a heart attack. 70% of Americans are obese or overweight. 50% of Americans are diabetic or pre-diabetic. And like at some point, these two worlds have to wrestle with each other and we have to reconcile that.
And they are right now.
That we're in that battle.
That's right.
You know what I mean? And I think one of the impediments towards the wellness side winning has to do with socioeconomic constraints.
That's right.
It's the common joke. Like it's not Whole Foods, it's whole paycheck. Like who has the amount of money to go and spend what it takes to create cacao, chia seed, pudding. It's like I can't afford these superfoods. Right. Like who can? Like it's just easier to go to McDonald's and buy subsidized beef, feed my family for $4.
That's right. Well, you just hit on it, right? So it's why do products with lots of chemicals and processing cost less than ones with no chemicals and processing?
It's subsidized.
It's economies of scale and crony capitalism. So we're at the intersection of a very efficient industrial agricultural food ag system that is playing off of very entrenched political economic interests that basically are, World War II holdovers of converting a World War II military economy into pesticides and corn subsidies, which have now, arrived at this perfect moment of highly processed food that we've been sold over the last 20 years that a low fat, low calorie diet of complex processed carbs is somehow good for us, which has given birth to the, obesity explosion.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so here you are. Thrive Market here to provide a direct-to-consumer solution, right? So essentially the idea is that anything that you would get at Whole Foods, you can get at Thrive. It's just mailed to you instead, and it's at a fraction of the price. I don't know. Is there like a...
It's 25 to 50% off on average. It's
that's like
34% off of a normal health food retail price.
And like Costco, it's like a membership model. Like you buy a membership, right?
Yeah, so it's $60 a year for a membership to Thrive Market. And it gives you access to the catalog of products. It's everyday sizes, so it's not 72 rolls of toilet paper. But for the first time, you can buy 70 loads of non-toxic laundry detergent for the same price that a big box shopping club is selling 70 loads of toxic laundry detergent with hormone and endocrine disruptors. And it's literally that specific. So that's, to me, that's really exciting where we're offering these products in the normal everyday sizes that people want them. So you're not having to deal with the storage issue. It's free shipping to people wherever they are nationally. They're able to access the products for the same price as conventional equivalents for the first time in history. And it's through a membership community. And then our part of our social mission is for every paid membership, we give a membership away to a family in need. So if you can't afford the membership, we want to find a way to get you one anyway.
Oh, cool. I like that. The Seva aspect of it,
yeah,
right?
Definitely.
And so from an entrepreneurial kind of businessman perspective, I mean, the model here, the sort of monetization profit model is you guys make money off the memberships and you're selling these products at their wholesale price. So you're not really making money off the products. You break even on that, right?
Definitely.
So I got you. Yeah, it's great. It's amazing somebody didn't do this sooner.
Well,
people have tried, right?
Well, the thing is actually existing retailers in the health food space, and I'm not going to name names, were holding the market back. They were basically saying if you sell to natural product brands, if you sell to a value channel, we'll pull you from the shelves. And what actually created the opening for us was Costco. Costco emerged as an alternative retail channel where it became a fair rationale for the brands to be able to say, hey, I'm selling into a membership community, so I can rationalize a different price than my normal existing retail community.
Interesting.
And because natural products is the fastest growing segment of Costco's business,
I think they're the biggest organic retailer in the country.
Well,
right now.
Kroger's actually now the biggest, but they're the biggest club retailer. And so, friends of mine that, now sell to Costco and the other obvious big ones, they're getting $30 and $50 million a year POs in aggregate from Costco, which is now equal to or greater than they would get from, say, a Whole Foods. And so when there's pressure put on them, they now have the leverage to say, look, you need my business as much as, I need you. I'm getting more business from alternate channels. And this is a different model selling into membership. And that created the opening for us. So that's really in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
We couldn't have started this business even 3 years ago.
Interesting. Just as kind of a primer course on how all this stuff works, I think people would be very interested to, kind of hear about the elementary steps of what is entailed. For example, if you're like a small food producer, let's say you have an organic cookie company, like you're new.
Right.
And obviously the goal is like, if we could just get on the shelf at Whole Foods. Right. And, just because you write a book doesn't mean that it ends up in Barnes and Noble, right? There's thousands of books that get written every year. Just because you have a food product doesn't mean that it finds its way onto the shelves at a place like Whole Foods. In fact, there's a whole auction bidding process that goes into that. And my understanding from being kind of arm's length away from it is that, when you're a player like Whole Foods, you hold all the cards, you have all the leverage, and you can compel a small producer like that to say, well, we like it, but it's got to be at this price. And it's a price that the food manufacturer is not only are they not going to make any money off it, they'll probably lose money off it. But it's so prestigious, it's sort of like an ad buy. It's like having a billboard. Just say I'm in Whole Foods. They'll do that deal anyway, even though they're losing money. And as a consumer, you see their product on the shelf and you think, oh, well, they must be doing very well. But the economic reality of that is quite often very, very different.
Yeah, so it's really rare that you get an entrepreneur that has the ability to create a really unique product and actually raise the $5 or $10 million that you need to break through that initial painful phase.
Right.
And it's not only Whole Foods that do it. All the major grocer, they play that same game. And so
there's a whole science to where on the shelf it is, and how many in a row, and all that kind of stuff.
That's part of the intermediation, right? So you've got the manufacturer of the product, and you've got the distributors, and then you have the brokers, and you have the slotting fees, and then you have the retail games.
Yeah, how many middlemen are there?
All of that just slices and kills the food manufacturer. And so you've got a product that they themselves want to see their products be accessible. They themselves feel raped by the current distribution retail paradigm. And so that's part of what has made our model work so well, is we've got such deep partnerships with the brands because they share the mission of making their products accessible. They don't see that retail markup. That's going to all the intermediation. And so what's exciting about a platform like Thrive is we can tell the story of those brands and their products in a really direct-to-consumer format, beautiful videos, great written content about their products, about their supply chain, what's unique, and then also pass all of that intermediate savings along to the member, and while making more money for the brand themselves.
Yeah, very cool. I can't have this conversation without thinking about kind of the recent history surrounding Hampton Creek and Just Mayo and what Josh Tetrick is building there, and kind of what happens when you are this maverick kind of upstart who's disrupting the kind of predominant paradigm that surrounds the food industry by offering this healthier product at a more affordable price. And that's all fine and in this sort of utopian idealistic world. But as soon as that starts to infringe upon the profit margins of Unilever, that makes Heilmann's mayonnaise, then it's a different story. And then they start fighting back and it becomes very dark and all kinds of craziness is going on. So for those that are listening that aren't familiar, just Google Hampton Creek and you'll find out like kind of the story of this lawsuit, and I've talked about it before on the podcast. So my question really is, have you come up against any of that kind of, predominant paradigm resistance. Hey man, who do you think you are? Like, this is the way we do it. We're Kroger, we're Safeway or whatever. Like, you can't do what you're doing.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's emerging where brands will call us that were really excited in the beginning, and they won't say names, but they say, hey, like,
if I do this,
we're under pressure now from other retailers because the price that you're offering to your membership. And so, I mean, I think, we've had a little bit of fallout there. We really try to keep a really aspirational focus to the business. I obviously come from like a hardcore activist background, so it's really easy for me to
get all punk rock.
I want to get all punk rock, but I've got great co-founders that keep me in line on that, and really like keeping the eye on the prize. This is a mainstream movement, and so
Gunnar, love heals.
That's
remember?
Right, love heals, the revolution. Exactly. So we're really focused on positive solutions that really solve people's problems in a really scalable way versus getting into a reactive place. That said, we'll take real stands on issues. We're the largest retailer today in the country that offers only GMO-free foods. So we're taking real stands on specific areas. But we're very careful about how we do that in a way that doesn't alienate people and create extra conflict and friction in our business. Right.
I mean, have you ever met John Mackey or had any conversations with people at Whole Foods about what you're doing?
Yeah, I mean, they're great people. I love. I think they've really helped the movement in a really powerful way. Like, they created standards. They've created economies of scale. Like, I would not want someone to think that I think Whole Foods is evil. I think, it's symptomatic of a momentum of a business model that is basically under assault in general across the board.
The idea of just shopping in a store, a physical store.
Just the retail store, the expense that it requires, the distribution system that has emerged to create and support that. It's very, very hard for them to change their ship overnight. And which is, you can see, like, they're trying to create 365 now, which is a chain of curated millennial focused brands, a store retail concept that's, value channel. That's going to be very, very expensive and very, very difficult. The beauty of an internet model is the efficiency of capital for us is so high. With the $30 million we just raised recently, we get such leverage off of it. We get such scale off of it right from day one. We're offering a solution from day one that reaches every American, and doesn't take 5 years to build out 50 retail stores that is only still reaching 2% of the U.S. population.
Right. So, I mean, one of the things that you share in common with John Mackey is this. Is this philosophy of conscious capitalism, right? And
Absolutely.
He's certainly, a pioneer of that idea. He wrote a whole book about it. And I know that you've spoken publicly, you've given talks on this subject matter as well. And it's a subject that I've devoted quite a bit of thought to. And by kind of way of contrast, I had Daniel Pinchback on the podcast a while ago. Do you know Daniel? I'm sure, of course you do, right?
We've gone to
fellow Burning Man person, right? And Daniel, as you know, is sort of a brooding, deep thinker.
Brilliant guy.
Yeah, very, very smart. Perhaps not as optimistic as you. And he had a very interesting perspective on conscious capitalism, which is essentially at its root, he's like, I think it's bullshit. Like, it's a marketing spin on capitalism that's designed to make people feel good about what they're purchasing. But in reality, if there wasn't a sort of profit motive built into it, it wouldn't exist at all. So I'm interested in especially since you know Daniel, like what your sort of perspective on that idea would be.
In terms of conscious capitalism being bullshit?
Well, just your philosophy of conscious capitalism and perhaps your retort to Daniel's perspective.
I mean, I love Daniel, so I probably wouldn't get into retorting his perspective, but I think that, look, fundamentally, the realization that I've had is instead of fighting against an obsolete system, the imperative that I can apply my God-given gifts and talents is to build a new model that is sexy and compelling, that solves real problems, that naturally attracts people, and naturally, in a very rapid fashion, makes the old model obsolete. And I think that
now you're just crazy talk.
No, but that's actually very practical.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I'm being ironic.
Oh, got you. You're playing the devil's advocate here. Look, I think there's a lot of greenwashing out there for sure, and it's a very delicate. I mean, like I see that even in our own business as we scale, and how do we message, and what's this, and that just happens, as a business grows. But the fundamental movement of this huge emergence of conscious companies with ethical supply chains offering healthy, natural, non-toxic products to consumers in a direct-to-consumer format, that is a paradigm shift that is going to ripple in such profound ways. And it's infecting the culture and the way that people think of the way they run their businesses and the way they vote with their dollars. And the systemic effect of that is profound.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, interesting. How does your spiritual cat, right? You just got back from Burning Man. By the way, how was Burning Man?
It's great. I brought my dad, my girlfriend,
Did you?
my sister, my brother, 4 aunts and uncles. We were there for a cousin's wedding. It was a beautiful family affair.
That's so hilarious. How many times have you gone to Burning Man?
I've gone like 12 times.
Have you?
But we
haven't gone.
We had 6 motorhomes, and we had a beautiful organic
lush
food program, and it was great. It was very, very, very sweet, simple. It wasn't like lots of drugs and craziness. It was like babies and family and very healthy.
Do you think Burning Man has been able to hold on to its kind of ethos, or is it becoming?
I know Daniel's pretty upset about that too. I just read an article from him about that this year.
That was another thing that he
was lambasting. I play with all the people that he's critical of. I became really good friends with the management of Burning Man. I work in the same circles as a lot of the top tech entrepreneurs. There's an awakening happening. People with a lot of money and resources and access are wanting to apply those resources in conscious ways. Sure, there's a lot of like glitz and frill that goes along with that at times, but the fundamental thing that people are waking up to in that community is they're here to serve something else than their own self-motive. And it's not pure profit. There is actually a real generous spirit moving through, and people are asking the hard question of how do I apply the incredible resources that I have available to me to something better and greater that facilitates community and facilitates a sustainable future.
It's real, right? Like, I feel like that really is real.
It's real.
And I feel like that is the defining characteristic of the generation below us, right? Like, it's easy to throw darts at millennials. Oh, they're entitled, they're lazy. But I really do feel that they have an appreciation for giving back, and their priorities are much more kind of morally aligned than the way in which, or the culture in which I was raised. And I find that to be very inspiring and optimistic. And I don't think that it's lip service. I really do feel that there is that sensitivity to a greater good that is like runs through the central nervous system of most young people that I come across. Now, I'm in the wellness community and I seek out young people to be on the podcast. So it's like I'm finding those people. Right. I'm not finding like the neckbeard guy in his mom's, basement playing, video games all day or what have you. So perhaps it's a tainted, value set or whatever. But I feel it in the air and I feel it in the culture. And I think when you see people like yourself and other business leaders, particularly, kind of thought leaders in the tech world, who make a point of going to Burning Man to have this kind of, Vulcan mind meld experience, like that says something.
It's
what I mean?
It's powerful. And
like the Vanderbilts and the Murdochs were not like sort of getting together under those kinds of circumstances. They were doing it in cloistered, mansions where nobody could see what they were doing, and God knows what was going on. You know what I mean? This is a very different era.
Right. Yeah, and there's a real conversation about, in general, aside from Burning Man, there's a real conversation about how do we apply the resources we have towards creating a world that is sustainable and equitable for more people, more stakeholders. And I think the whole conversation around externalities is such an important one because, to Daniel's critique on the capital market is that it creates such specialization and abstraction from the supply chain that we don't see the toxins from the color dyes that go into the river from the sweatshop labor in Southeast Asia that are poisoning children. We don't see that. And
not only do we not see it, we're purposely deflected away. There's all sorts of smoke and mirrors to prevent us from being able to see it, even if we want to.
Yeah, I'm not that cynical about it. I don't actually. There's definitely smoke and mirrors that happens. But I don't think it's actually that. I don't think there's that much central power. I think people are basically fundamentally playing to their own self-interest, and that collides into a macroeconomic system where we're just abstracted from what's happening on the other side of the world where our products are being produced.
Yeah, but I think it's pretty dark in certain respects. Like whether whether it's, the factory where your iPhone is made or, the pig farm where your bacon is made. Like these are dire, desperate situations that, we just don't even want to look at. Right. And when you look at sort of the politicization, you were talking about greenwashing, like look what's happening to simply organic certification, like because these big food companies are so powerful, it's been watered down because they know that they can make more money and charge more if they get that certification. So it doesn't quite mean what it used to mean. And I'm sure that you see that kind of thing happening all the time.
Yeah, and I wouldn't dismiss the darkness there. There's a lot of, we're in the midst of the 6th largest extinction in the history of the planet. So there's a lot going on here.
Yeah. At the same time, and kind of getting back to the optimistic vein of all of this, and specifically with respect to millennials, there is a demand for transparency that is unprecedented, right? It's expected, and a company that's not willing to be transparent in terms of its sort of chain of title over its product line and manufacturing and distribution, et cetera, just ain't going to cut it anymore.
Well, I think for me, money is energy. It's literally that simple. Like we think of money as this monolithic thing. It's literally energy. It's just a currency of exchange. And so the question is, who's behind the money and what are they motivated by? And if so, somebody is motivated by fear and greed, which is the traditional human software paradigm that has been running us for a long time. It's going to be more of the same. If we're motivated by a sense of service and willingness to contribute our lives to something greater than our own self-interest, then the money and the concentration of that wealth is going to be put to great effect.
So young people have an upgraded operating system. We just have to download the.
I think we're in the midst of upgrading our operating system in general.
All right, but it's a little tweaky and buggy right now.
It's very tweaky and buggy.
Yeah. So what does the future hold, Gunnar? Look into that high crystal ball and tell me where this is all leading.
Well, I think we're clearly at a crossroads. We're at a place in our species where there's more than 7 billion of us on the planet, and that explosion in our population from over the last 200,000 years. World War II, there were 2 billion of us on the planet, and so in the last 3 generations, we've gone from 2 billion to more than 7 billion, and that has been facilitated by the agricultural revolution. It would not have happened without the industrialization and scaling of agriculture. And so the production of food and distribution of food is absolutely primary to why we've been so successful as a species, but it's also now primary to the challenges that we face as a species. And so it's absolutely incumbent upon us to envision a world where we produce food that is good for the planet and good for our bodies and is affordable for everybody. And if we can do that, we will pass a world along that is regenerative, it is sustainable, and it is equitable, and that will cut across so many different supply chains. If we don't do that, we're going to pass along more extreme versions of what we're seeing with intense climate change, disease, war. Somebody was pointing out, one of our investors was pointing out the other day that the Syrian war is the first climate change war. It is intense drought that drove the rural agricultural community in Syria into the cities. The cities could no longer provide the services, and then ISIS came along because there was disruption in the services that were being provided.
I hadn't thought of it.
And we now have 11 million people in Syria that are on the move because of the first climate change war. And so that's a really interesting reframe on that circumstance. And so we all see it, we all feel it. We read the news, the sense of desperation. I think a lot of ways that's why we feel like millennials and young people are apathetic, is there is a sense of hopelessness out there. And how do people engage? Barack Obama sold the country on a very aspirational message, and in matter of fact, the actual result of that has been very, very diluted. And there's so many instances of these great things that have been sold to people that tap into that sense of hopefulness and aspiration and possibility, and then the actual result of them is very watered down.
Right. And when it doesn't play out, you're like, well, if Barack couldn't get it done, like, it ain't happening.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's easy to just sort of like say forget about it.
That's right.
You know what I mean? I love that monologue that you just gave. It was amazing. That's why I gave you a copy of Cowspiracy, because it's completely on that tip. By 2100, they're predicting that population could swell to 11 billion.
That's right.
It's like our current paradigm for feeding the planet is broken, it's wasteful, it's unsustainable, and it's killing the planet. And look at any category, from ocean pollution to land use to water use to Amazon destruction to species extinction to, the algal blooms, and it's just ridiculous across the board. And we just cannot continue to walk through this crisis with blinders on.
Right.
We're at the tipping point, if not beyond it. And the truth is that we can solve this problem using the entrepreneurial ingenuity that people like you are leveraging.
Well,
so
you
it's
too,
exciting.
right? You're part of that.
But it's one person at a time.
That's right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, this podcast is me giving out the flyer at Santa Cruz.
That's
it's
right.
the only thing that I can do.
Well, but the thing is, it's different, right? It's 500 people at the protest in Santa Cruz. It's 100,000 people here, right? The scale now, because you've got a resonant message, people are attracted to it, and they can reach it now through the internet. I think even in parallel to conscious capitalism is actually a much more fundamental piece, which is personal empowerment and personal transformation. If we're ruled by fear and self-doubt and self-limiting beliefs, we will never be able to express ourselves to our full potential. And to me, that is the fundamental software upgrade that we have to go through as a species. We have obsolete biological technology that is based upon fight or flight response. And that's been a very successful evolutionary technology that has gotten us to where we are. But unless we can rapidly shift that orientation in our awareness and our consciousness and how we make decisions, we're not going to be able to make the critical jump that we have to make.
Mm-hmm. But you're optimistic
that
we're going to be able to do it?
Yeah. There's an awakening happening on all fronts. Definitely. I mean, I'm an optimistic human being, so I've never seen the way through any
love heals, man.
I've never seen the way through any solution that I've tried to apply myself towards. But I move personally from a place of like, at the end of the day, even if it's all going to turn into a crazy madhouse, I would rather live in a world where I feel a sense of hopefulness.
You take it to the grave, like
I'm going to take it to the grave.
Yeah,
that's it.
So what's a day in your life look like right now? It's got to be pretty crazy.
It's crazy.
I mean, how many employees do you guys have?
We're at 250 employees, the fastest growing e-commerce.
You just opened some giant warehouse somewhere too, right? Like, lay it out. Like, what is the infrastructure and kind of a day in the life of Gunnar Lovelace look like? It doesn't look like what it looked like on the organic farm up in Ojai anymore.
No. We have 2 big distribution centers now, East Coast, West Coast. We're shipping 2 days to 90% of the U.S. population. That's been just getting.
So you ship everywhere in the continental U.S.
Everywhere.
Do you ship Alaska and Hawaii?
Just continental U.S. right now.
Right.
So it's really, for us, it's been about implementing low carbon, fast shipping to our membership community so that we can reach 90% of the U.S. population cost effectively. So that's on the infrastructure side. On terms of the actual build out of the business, the key to any business or organizational success is great people. So, I brought in 3 other amazing co-founders. Mm-hmm. We have an amazing leadership community in the company. Everybody who's in the company is passionate about health and wellness and is giving themselves to excellence, passion, goodness. And so, yes, it's super intense. I'm working 16 hours a day, 6 or 7 days a week. Mm-hmm. I'll have 15 meetings a day. I'm sprinting from, one meeting to another. That isn't all that sustainable long term.
Right.
But I love what I'm doing, and I'm so grateful to have the opportunity to be able to apply my life in that direction.
Right. So how do you maintain your kind of mindfulness in the midst of the sort of the eye of this chaotic storm?
Well, I view business as a form of creative yoga. So for me, it's like I'm in a meeting. I just sit up. I make sure I'm trying to get good posture. I'm staying mindful of my breath. Trying to eat a low sugar diet. Trying to get enough sleep. Making sure I get 4 or 5 times a week a really vigorous sweat, because otherwise I turn into an asshole. Mm-hmm. Just really basic guardrails that provide a foundation of support.
Right. So there's no do you have a morning routine? Do you have a meditation practice that you lock in? What is the, do you bring your green smoothie to the office? What are the tactile kind of takeaways for somebody who's listening? Because you're an interesting conundrum in the sense that you don't quite fit that, the typical Silicon Valley, technology entrepreneur. You're coming from this holistic wellness perspective, and it's the merging of these two worlds. So I'm interested in kind of the actual brass tacks of what that looks like and how you practice that.
Yeah, so getting enough sleep is front and center. I can do anything else, meditation and lots of exercise. If I'm not getting enough sleep, I just totally implode. So because I have so much on my mind, I really try to take care of myself right before I go to bed. I have an unwind sequence that I run through. I roll around on my back for 20 or 30 minutes and just bring my energy down. It's a very meditative place. I'll take mag calm right before I go to bed.
Magnesium.
Yeah, just a lot of magnesium.
That's a staple in our house.
That just brings me right down. And so getting enough sleep is absolutely primary for me in this kind of place of super high intensity. And then, really low sugar diet, a low sugar diet, lots of probiotics. I take probiotics probably 4 to 8 times a day. And for me, that supercharges my immune system. People get sick around me all the time, and I don't get sick very, very, very rarely. And that's because I'm taking a lot of vitamin C.
What kind of probiotics?
I mean, I like temperature stable probiotics because I'm on the move. So, Dr. Ohhira's is a great one. It's a lot of efficacy. So we sell that on Thrive. I love it. You have no shortage of access to healthy food products with what you do. Right? Totally.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter what you put in your body if you're in an unstable place, and we all have our different parameters of what that is. Sleep is the critical thing for me. So, sleep and a low sugar diet with lots of probiotics, that powers me through the day.
Mm-hmm. And what's next? What's the kind of problem that you're trying to solve right now to get to the next level? What's going on currently?
Yeah, so I think so a couple of the challenges. One is, we see our mission is to make healthy living accessible to everybody. We see access as a function of price, geography, and education. And so we've got a really strong core offering around price and geography. We're shipping healthy products for less anywhere nationally, but we're still not doing what we can do on the education side. And that's really the investment in content. We just shot a 20-part video series on healthy hacks on a budget and just demystifying health. How do you read a label? How do carbs turn into sugar? Why you should care about toxic ingredients in your cleaning supplies? Creating short form content, video content, written content that's given away with the membership. It's all about healthy habit formation. So if we can help a family that's buying processed toxic food at a local convenience store understand that they can access the natural alternative to that for the same price for the first time in history, and couple that with educational material, and we give them a roadmap to be able to make their first 2 or 3 purchases, we have a real impact of changing their life and impacting their children's lives in a very, very real way.
Yeah, the education is huge. In our cookbook, The Plant Power Way, the idea behind it was to introduce mainstream modern American families to the idea of eating plant-based and to demystify it in many ways and sort of position it and present it as a modern, accessible, and kind of aspirational way of living. And we tried to use ingredients that you could find no matter where you live. But there are certain things that are okay, but if you want to get more exotic and you want to get into the cacao powder and the chia seeds and, the ground flaxseed and the hemp seeds and all that kind of stuff that, look, if you're living in Venice, California, that's on the tip of everybody's tongue. But if you're in the breadbasket of America, people have never heard of that stuff. It's brand new. And you'll get pushback. People will say, well, I can't get that stuff where I'm like, it's 2015. If you did a Google search, you could find a place that would ship it to you in a day and a half. Like, that excuse doesn't hold water anymore. Right. You can't hang your hat on like, well, I would do that, but I live here and I can't get that. Like, you can, like, forget about Thrive Market. Even if Thrive Market didn't exist, I'm sure you could find a place to ship you whatever kind of weird ingredient
Amazon
that you're looking
at.
Amazon, everything has it. So now there's Thrive Market that makes it even easier and more affordable, because that's the other argument. Well, it's too expensive, I can't do it. To be able to do that, like, really dilutes and takes all of the kind of energy that surrounds those rationales that are so common that crop up around like why I can't access a healthier lifestyle.
Yeah, and there's a lot of different demographic segments. Like, there's this whole population of Americans that are on food stamps, right? Mm-hmm. And so we're in conversations with the White House and the USDA to be the first to accept food stamps online early next year.
Oh wow, that would be cool.
You cannot use food stamps today online. How crazy is that?
That is crazy.
You drive across Los Angeles and you see 5 fast food joints that now say accepting food stamps and EBT. It's insane, right? So that's a major initiative that we're working on.
Wow. I didn't even know that.
It's incredible. People just so that's a whole community that just, no matter how affordable it is, they're on food stamps. If they can't use their food stamps to buy natural non-toxic products for the first time as conventional equivalents, it's just, they're never going to get at it.
Yeah, you're further entrenching the socioeconomic problem and making it worse.
Yeah, and it's you look at different demographic segments, what's so tragic and sad about the current situation is that you've got very, very low income communities that are overfed and undernourished. Mm-hmm. And you look at obesity and diabetes, it's really heavily concentrated at the lower levels of our economic demographic groups, and it's because processed food is so cheap and the amount of calories you get per dollar is so high that it's just
impossible to say no to.
That's right.
When you're on that kind of a budget.
That's right.
So yeah, I have great empathy for people that are stuck in that situation.
Yeah.
It's a terrible situation.
So I think to your point, to your question, like what's next, we're building our core business and that's scaling really, really passionately. At the same time, I'm personally very, very interested in making sure that we can really provide inroads into communities that are just not going to be able to be part of that no matter what. Mm-hmm. And so we're having a lot of really powerful conversations with like foundations that, like the Robert Wood Johnson Foundation just put $500 million into food issues. So we have a model that we're creating where we can raise money from foundations that provides the first 3 purchases to a family, coupled with educational material that we develop together, coupled with the free membership that we give away to families in need. And we have an opportunity to really support healthy habit formation at scale to a whole segment of the U.S. population that just would never be part of this conversation otherwise.
Right. I feel like part of your challenge is to be able to effectively, communicate with and penetrate that lower socioeconomic community because, as we're, on the west side of LA, like we all know what's going on at Silicon Beach and like we know, Thrive Market, they're happening, that's what's going on right now. People in that community or in that upper, financial echelon, like we're aware of what you're doing. But is, the bus driver, does he know what Thrive Market is? Like, how are you going to get the message out to the people that actually can benefit the most from the service that you're offering?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So I think what's really exciting to me is, there's this huge community of influencers that are emerging that care about this issue. And so we've been very, very thoughtful about how we capitalize the business. We didn't take passive institutional investors. Every single investor that we have in the company is strategic and actually passionately engaged, is interested in this and is working with us on it. And so we have literally 150 influencers as investors in the company. And that was one.
Yeah, you have some really, all the people are all people you've heard of. And
they're great people. So they're working with us to build content that speaks to their audiences at scale through social media in a way that's super high impact but very low cost. Mm-hmm. And so when we think about the emerging consumer behavior, it's social proof, right? So if you've got an influencer that you look up to and they're sharing authentically about what it is that they're passionate about and being able to access healthy food for less through this new platform, it's going to resonate to that community that identifies with that influencer. Mm-hmm. And that's an extremely high impact, low cost way of scaling into a lot of different demographic groups. And so we're working with, the bloggers and then we're working with A-list actors, and then we're working with A-list sports stars. And each of those people speak to communities in a different way. Our job is to be really intelligent about creating content that is authentic to them and speaks to those audiences in a way that's actually going to help them understand that this is an available solution for them.
All right, man. I love it. Our time is up.
Really appreciate it. I just going, so much appreciation for you.
I love you, buddy. I'm so proud of you and so excited to see this whole thing just exploding around you like a giant mushroom cloud of awesome.
We're going to find a lot of ways to work together.
I love it.
And really, really grateful for your audience that is organizing around this conversation, and just the way that you made a shift in your own life from a very traditional high-powered entertainment lawyer to
not so high-powered,
to a much greater platform that you're creating. So really
feels good,
really
man. You knew me before the transition, right?
That's right.
So you can attest to the difference and the change, and it's just been amazing to kind of observe this arc in your own life and to see what you're building, you have built and continue to build. That's helping millions of people.
Well, we're going to be friends and allies for the rest of our lives.
It's all good, man. I love it. Absolutely.
Have a beautiful day.
Big love heals, and I look forward to it. Dude, we got to do this more. Like, will you come back on the show?
Absolutely.
I feel like you could be my co-host once in a while.
I love
we have
this
a good,
stuff.
there's a good energy
good
here.
rapport
you know what
here.
I mean?
Totally.
All right. So for people that are listening and they're digging on Gunnar and want to learn more, the best place to go is thrivemarket.com.
That's it.
And you're on, Facebook and Twitter and all the local places. So Gunnar Lovelace, Google him, you'll find him. And anything else coming out that you want to point people to?
I think, do what you love.
All right. Awesome, man.
All right.
Peace.
See you later.
Plants. Hey, did you guys like that? I like that. I think Gunnar's super cool. I can't wait to see where he takes Thrive and his mission. Don't forget to check out the show notes at richroll.com for additional articles, background, and other materials and resources related to today's conversation. Again, I put a ton of time into compiling these, so make a point to check them out. Read up, learn more, take your knowledge base and your podcast experience beyond the earbuds. And while we're at it, have you guys subscribed to my newsletter yet? Come on, people. No spam, just good stuff, weekly podcast updates, product offers, and I'm going to start sharing exclusive content there, helpful information, all oriented around the wisdom of my guests and the books, films, products, and resources I'm finding helpful in my own life. So go ahead, subscribe. No downside. As for exclusive content, as you guys know, iTunes only catalogs the most recent 50 episodes of the show. So if you want free access to the entire back catalog of the show, all 190 episodes to date, you can do that with my free iOS app. Just search Rich Roll in the App Store or on iTunes. Totally free. We're soon going to be releasing a new version to overcome any bugs that have been going on. Yes, I'm aware of that. And yes, Android users, I hear you. We're working on it. Anyway, thanks for subscribing to the show, for giving us a review on iTunes. I appreciate that. And for always making sure to use the Amazon banner ad at richroll.com for all your Amazon purchases. The Amazon banner ad is right there on the main podcast page. It doesn't cost you anything extra. You just click there. It takes you to Amazon. Buy whatever you're going to buy. Amazon kicks us some loose commission change from their end. And it's just a great, simple, free way to support the mission, and it really does help us out a lot. So thanks so much to everybody who has made a habit of that. If you're in LA or your travels take you to this part of the world, be sure to check out Joy Cafe. It's our organic, plant-based, and gluten-free eatery in the Westlake Village area of Los Angeles. You'll often find me eating there, mostly lunchtime, 3 or 4 days a week. I'm also partnered with the Karma Baker, which is a vegan and gluten-free bakery, also in Westlake Village. And as I always say, the podcast is a great way to kind of serve the global community with my message. But it's also important to serve the local community, and that's what these businesses are about, and it feels really good. So it'd be great if you were to check them out. I want to thank today's sponsors, Scotty Vest. With clothes designed to keep all of your gear organized and secure, you can focus on more important things in life. Go to scottyvest.com/richroll and get 20% off with the coupon code richroll. Also, Bombas, athletic leisure socks re-engineered to look better, feel better, and perform better. Go to bombas.com/roll. Enter code ROLL, get 25 to get yourself 4 or more pairs for 25% off. For all your plant power needs, go to richroll.com. Check out our new cookbook and lifestyle guide, The Plant Power Way. Also, my book, Finding Ultra. We got signed copies of both of those. We got Julie's guided meditation program. We have 100% organic cotton garments. We got plant power tech teas, all kinds of good stuff. Basically, A lot of awesome to help you take your health and your life to the next level. richroll.com. Appearances. Next week on Tuesday, I'm leaving to go to Beirut, Lebanon, to run the marathon there, which is going to be incredible. So anybody out there in Lebanon who's listening, I hope to meet you next week there. It's going to be really cool. After that, I come home. I'm home like 2 days, and then I'm off on a whirlwind trip. I go to Atlanta. I'm speaking at the Food Equals Medicine Conference the weekend of November 13th through 15th. Then I go to Athens, Georgia. I'm speaking at the University of Georgia. Hope to meet some students there. Then I go to Elkhart, Indiana, which is near South Bend. I'm speaking there as part of something called the Michiana Speakers Series. If you want information on that, go to healthymichiana.com. And then I go straight to Miami for the Seed Food and Wine Festival, which is a really great event I'm very much looking forward to. So that's it. Thanks for supporting the show. Thanks for telling a friend. Thanks for sharing it on social media. Thanks for using the Amazon banner ad at richroll.com for all your Amazon purchases. And I will see you guys back here in a couple days. Make it great. Peace. Plants.